Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
The two disciples recounted what had taken place on the way, and how Jesus was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. While they were still speaking about this, he stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." For they were startled and terrified, and thought they were seeing a ghost. Then he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do questions arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And as he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they were still incredulous for joy and were amazed, he asked them, "Have you anything to eat?" They gave him a piece of baked fish. He took it and ate it in front of them. Then he said to them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and in the prophets and Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures. And he said to them, "This is written that Christ would suffer and rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins would be preached in his name for all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem, and you are witnesses of these things." The Gospel of the Lord. Good morning.
Good morning, Father.
How's it going? Good. Well, as you know, we're celebrating the Easter season. And it's all about the resurrection of Jesus to new life. But as I always think of the Easter season, I'm reminded of the statement of Bishop Kenneth Unterner. Anybody here from Saginaw, Michigan? Hey, we have somebody from Saginaw. Okay. You know Ken Unterner very well then. He's deceased now, but he was the Bishop of Saginaw, Michigan, and these are the words that he wrote. He said, "When it comes to something like resurrection, when we are dealing with something like resurrection, words will never do it. The hardest thing in the world to believe is to believe in life after death. It is also the most wonderful thing to believe. And we are asking people to bet their lives on it." Those are pretty thoughtful words, I think. So last week I asked the people, I said, "Do you believe in the resurrection of Jesus to new life? Do you?"
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You're a pretty positive group, I'll tell you. Is this not working?
It's working.
No, it isn't.
We hear you.
I'm shouting. No. There we go. That's better, I'll bet. Okay. Do you really believe in the resurrection of Jesus in new life? They'll say, "Oh, of course I do." Yes. Well, I want you to use your imagination with me for a minute. This is going to take some real imagination. I want you to imagine that you're in Jerusalem about 2,000 years ago. I want you to imagine you're standing in the tomb of Jesus. Can you picture yourself there? And then you're looking at this body wrapped in all of this linen cloth. And then what? Did I hear something? Just my imagination, okay? You continue looking, but then all of a sudden, you see a little sign of life under the cloth. And there's more and more little stirrings that are going on until finally Jesus sits up, tears all the linen cloth off of him. He's risen from the dead. Is that what we believe when we say we believe in his resurrection? No. That is not resurrection to new life. That is what is called resuscitation. That is what Jesus did with his friend Lazarus, who died. Remember?
Yes.
He brought Lazarus back to life. But he brought him back to the same life that he was living before. And Lazarus now would continue to live the same life for a while, and then eventually would die again. That is resuscitation. That is not what we believe about Jesus. When we are talking about resurrection of Jesus, we mean Jesus was raised to an entirely new, glorious life. The risen Jesus is not the same Jesus who died on the cross. The mortal Jesus has become immortal. He's living this glorious new existence that will never end. That's a lot different than resuscitation, to continue the same life. You know, words don't do it. I know that my words aren't going to do it today. And when we look at the Gospels even, the Gospels are words too, aren't they? So they're not going to do it. They're not going to be able to show us the entire mystery of resurrection and afterlife, but they give us hints. They give us little glimpses into what we believe. Look at some of the hints that we find in the Gospels. Why do you suppose Mary Magdalene did not recognize Jesus when she was talking to him right outside the tomb on Easter Sunday morning? And didn't recognize him. Thought he was the gardener? Why is it that the two disciples walked with him for 7 miles on the road to Emmaus and didn't know who he was? That sounds strange. Why is it that every time Jesus appears, the disciples are startled, even terrified, as we heard in the gospel today? And Jesus has to assure them, it is I myself. It is really, truly me. Why? Why don't they recognize it? Because the risen Jesus is not the same Jesus who died on the cross. The Gospels continue to give us other hints that Jesus, the risen Jesus, is no longer bound by space or time. Now, we can't really understand this. Here's where words won't do it. But we can get an idea, and that's what the Gospels give us. Little hints. Jesus was not bound by space. He walked through locked doors. He simply appeared wherever he wanted to appear. And Jesus was not bound by time. No time. I mean, he is going to live without any illness, without any deterioration, is going to live forever and ever in his new life. This is what we believe when we say we believe in the resurrection of Jesus. And we believe it without seeing, without understanding. Remember the words of Jesus? Blessed are you who have not seen and still believe. That's us. That's our faith in Easter, which is also the foundation of our faith in every other thing. It's worth pondering. It's worth wondering at. And now, my friends, a preview. If you think this is asking you for a lot of faith, it is. But next week, you're going to have even much more faith than what we're talking about now, because next week, we're going to look at ourselves and our own futures.